Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Friday, December 17th, 2021. Why am I smiling? Because y'all know I forget the date often. I sometimes. So when I can flow with it and not stumble, I'm very happy. It's a special edition of Freestyle Fridays. We actually have another. I'm just getting a text from Darren Howell. I believe that we're going to have another Freestyle Friday with Darren at 1 p.m. In reference just to some of the good in the hood that drive Boston, and he does. They attempt to do every year for our community when it comes to getting toys to our community. Speaking of our community, young people, toys, I just want to make you aware, and some of you are very much aware, that there is this social media trend going on in reference to people making threats against schools. And so I reached out to Boston Public Schools, and this is the response that I received from them in a text, that extra patrols are being sent to some schools. School safety officers are on extra watch, and inevitably students are under more watch today. And that is, they said that I could share this information. They don't believe the threat. There's a credible threat specifically to BPS. BPD and FBI are involved and looking. And so I know there's a lot of concerns from parents in the community. There was an issue last week with the threat at the school. And so, parents had a choice to make this morning, and we respect it both ways. But we just wanted to raise that. We are here today for Freestyle Fridays to talk with a young man that I follow on Twitter. Like me, he is a political pundit here in the city of Boston. He is an activist, has been involved with some historical campaigns, has a lot of Boston Poly and Mass Poly opinion, and has done the work, been involved with some very successful historical campaigns. And so without further ado, I would like to present to some and introduce to others, Mr. Chip. And now I'm looking at the last name. You pronounce it first, so I don't jack it up.
Goines, G-O-I-N-E-S, Goines. Thank you.
I gave you a couple of extra syllables. I didn't know whether you were of Latino descent, but good morning, sir. It's an honor and a privilege to have you in the room. I've watched you for some time there on Twitter, and you definitely have helped contribute to a blaze trail for platforms like this, using social media to mobilize and keep people aware. So welcome to the Java Cafe this morning. You all in the comments, please say good morning to Chip, and I'll check in with you all on the comments and say good morning in just a few moments. But please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your road from activism to political campaigns to being a contributor to a very popular network when it comes to keeping people informed.
Thank you. Honored to be on the show.
Yes,
so I guess it started, really like 6 years ago. I got involved in the No Olympics campaign. I knew about Boston politics, but I wasn't really involved, really aware, but got involved in that for 8 months, just really was on social media, making the case that why that bid was bad. And, in July 2015, we killed the bid, and I just kept it rolling. Met Tito Jackson, Councilor Tito Jackson, and when he was helping us out, and got involved into his 2017 mayoral race. That didn't work out, but it was a lot of fun. Was with him all day on election day. Just a great campaign. I mean, it was great. And then after that, 2018, got really involved in Ayanna Presley's campaign. So I knocked on about 1,000 doors for her in that last stretch, and that was one of the things that turned the tide. And then got involved in Mayor Wu's, well, then Councilor Wu's campaign, and I think in 2019, Councilor Wu and Kim Janey's councilor races, and I guess last year, then just started writing for, had a column for WGBH, which focused really on gun control and police accountability.
And that's definitely the latter is definitely a space of activism. And so you're I think what Anthony calls himself, electoral campaign worker, you know, activist. You just to recap, 2024 the Olympics, that was interesting. That was an interesting process, but it did not come. I think in the context of what's going on with the coronavirus right now, that might not be a bad thing among among other reasons, and not making light of that at all. And so you're writing for WGBH. You're very active on social media. Let's just jump right in. One of the things that you talk about often is Boston Poly. And so if I were to ask you right now in the moment to describe Boston Poly in its current state, what would be one word that you use to describe Boston Poly right now?
I think that word would be change.
Okay. But Chip, that's an easy one, but go ahead.
Okay, all right, fine.
You can pick your word. You're good.
Yeah, I mean, well, I wanted to say, I can't say it because it doesn't make sense, but I wanted to say women, but it really has to be women lead.
Okay, you can in that case, look, it's our show. We can do what we want to. Women lead. And so why do you, I mean, to me, it's obvious, but why do you say that as far as women lead or leading, if you want to add a syllable? Yep.
Because 2 years ago, even 5 years ago, if you had told me that we would have had a black congresswoman, a woman, followed up by a black mayor who was succeeded by a first Asian woman mayor, and then you've got, the first black state senator. Well, sorry, not the first, but a black state senator.
Yep,
that's represented in Boston. The conflicts of all those things, I'm not, and not to mention what's going on in the city council, majority female body, and the first time in 365 years or 300 whatever years in Boston's history. I would not have believed you. So it's good, So that's why I had to boil down to change,
Change and women leading, and which is definitely dope. And I'll ask you, as a black man, we've had to have some real convos about the past. There have been statements from as interesting, the black woman's worst enemy, is a black man. We've heard that. But there is also a genuine concern of, while we are pushing women to lead, men still want to make sure that their issues are addressed in our particular manner. And we have a lot that we deal with. So where do you find the balance between supporting women, not even that ain't the word, allowing, supporting, pushing them to lead, and also, recognizing the fact that sometimes our voice may feel kind of muted generally. And then there have been some that have asserted that, in this period that, we had Dave Halpert didn't get in. We know the fiasco with John Barrows not being invited to certain, debates. And so how do you balance that as a black man while celebrating all of our wonderful queens and what they're doing?
Right. Well, I think now it's just obvious we have to give space for women to, finally find their voice and a lead. But I think there's also, an opportunity for us to be at the table.
Yep.
I mean, so just stay optimistic about that. I too was really disappointed by Halbert's loss.
Yeah.
Hopefully, just maybe he'll get in if Flaherty gets picked for DA. He can get appointed that way. But I mean, that's a pipe dream. Who knows? But I just felt that there will always be opportunities for us to, as black men, to be at that table.
Yeah.
It just will be.
Because we have people like Ayanna that doesn't, often, I hate the words, don't forget us or whatever, but I just needed to ask that because you got two black men on here together. I wanted to say a couple of things about that, everyone, because of what Chip said as far as women leading. There are a lot of candidates. There are a lot of electeds that are women in Boston Poly, and you got two men on here talking. And so we just want to be sensitive to that. And the other piece is we did have Gina Crystal, who was lined up to be with us, and we wanted to hold space. I've been naming this that she was going to come on this morning, but her and Wanelia Rivera and some others, and Chip, I don't know if you know this young lady. I keep forgetting to bring her name because I want to honor her. They lost someone transitioned that was very special to them, that moved in the space of mobilization and civic engagement. And so that is why Gina's not here today. So you do have two men that are talking about Boston politics, which is heavily populated by women right now. So we want to name that, and just be sensitive to the fact that the desire was to get a woman to come in as well, to balance this testosterone with estrogen. But so you kind of let's talk a little bit about the DA's race. We may go all over the place, fluctuate between Boston Poly, Mass Poly, Suffolk Poly, MA7 Poly. And so I seen an article recently. We know that Rachel Rollins got confirmed to be the U.S. attorney for the state of Massachusetts. Shout out to her. I believe the first Black woman to be doing that. So that's historical there. But it is leaving the opportunity for Charlie Baker to appoint a district attorney. For months, probably over a year, there has been the assertion that if Rachel moves on, that kind of Mike Flaherty would be the sort of heir apparent. An article I saw a couple of weeks ago said that Mike's not doing it. And we talked about the fact that there's some concerns if he does, because we're going back to a white male being the DA after Rachel broke that ceiling. But then the one good byproduct of that would be that David, per charter, would be invited to the council as the fifth placer in the at-large race. And so what are your thoughts there as far as, or where with you can, you're involved, what are you hearing? That article also named Tanisha Sullivan, Hassan Hall, who is not in the county. There was someone else named in the article as well. But what are you kind of hearing on that DA appointment race, where with what you can share, sir?
All right. So right now it's been pretty quiet. I've been hearing probably just the same thing, really, Tanisha. I mean, Rasan could move. I mean, he could just get an apartment. I mean, just rent,
Hi, Rasan. How you doing, sir? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, but again, like it's still ways out. My wish is that Andrea Campbell would run.
I did, but so she would run, because right now this would be interim. Rachel got installed or put in office. I believe her celebration was January of, was it 19?
Yeah.
20. Okay. It was 19 because they all got elected in 18. That's right.
Yeah.
So they would be in 19, 20, finish 21. So they would basically do half the term. I heard Andrea's name to possibly run, but do you also mean to put her hat in to be appointed by the governor as well? Or do you mean wait 3 years and run for the seat?
I definitely want her to run for the seat. I have not heard her name in terms of being appointed for the seat.
Yeah.
And it's Charlie Baker. I mean, I don't trust him. So this whole thing about, he's going to pick something, he's going to pick someone that the community likes, or that is going to be more in line with what DA Rollins is doing, is just absurd. I just feel that he's going to pick someone who is centrist, someone who is reactionary, someone who cringes at Black Lives Matter and defund the police and holding police accountability, all of that. I just don't see that. So, if he even picks a DA of color, that would blow my mind. I just when I can see him doing, but I don't really believe it. So in other words, I would rather, and Andrea, I think, still has a lot of money left from the race. I would rather her just run and become the DA outright, because again, Mayor Wu needs help. You know, you can't do police accountability without having a strong DA. You just cannot. And then I think that's my bottom line going forward. Like, whoever it is for DA, I want them to be a person that gives the police union and the police on the line, night sweats. That's someone who's like, oh, okay, so anyone who puts a fear into BPD and the BPD rank and file, that's who I want. Now, if Charlie Baker picks something like that, great, but I don't see it.
It's interesting with him, and here's the interesting thing about him not running, and it brings up this other thing I want to get your opinion about as a black male. In the I think it's I forgot what first district, Lydia's race,
Yeah.
that she successfully won. And so, the downfall of Baker not running for office is that he could have a sentiment he can do whatever the hell he want to do. He ain't got to worry about getting elected again within ethics and whatnot. I will give him some balance that generally in the beginning, Massachusetts did well, up until he started showing his potential Republican side toward the spring and rushing to open up because of the economy, his decisions right now. But we'll give that balance. But he's had some very public disagreements with District Attorney Rollins. And so I agree with you that, the proof is in the pudding. And also, I'll just also name that, and I'm curious to your thoughts on this. There's a notion within the black community or saying that, all skin ain't kin. You know what I mean? So we just can't, just because they have a certain level of melanin, probably more than mine, that they're going to, they're going to legislate. They're going to administer that office in a manner that shares our values. And so that's, sort of your spin on the DA's race. There's another race, not in the county, in the whole state that's coming up. And I said we'll bounce around a little bit, but Sonia Chang Diaz has got in for the gubernatorial. There's the sister from Harvard. I don't remember her name.
Danielle Allen. No.
Danielle Allen. I think it is Allen. Danielle Allen, because someone asked me, James, your name and Sonia and other people, and you forgot the sister from Harvard. I was like, shout out to Tanisha. She reminded me about that. And so there's Danielle Allen, and then Sonia. Oh, Ben Downing. Ben Downing. And so let's go in that order, no particular list. What are your thoughts in reference to Sonia Chang Diaz running gubernatorial? She's giving up the second Suffolk, which we can talk about that race a little bit in a few minutes, because that's interesting. And so Sonia Chang Diaz going for governor. What are your thoughts in reference to leaving that seat and trying to achieve more of a state influence?
Sure. I mean, it's a loss for the district, but I am excited for her to run. In fact, I will admit I'm a supporter. I was really impressed with their attempt for the police reform bill last year. I wrote about that, I think, a year ago.
Okay.
I mean, it got watered down, but just the fact that she put that first marker in the sand in reform and accountability was huge for me. It was actually more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
She put some things with mental health that I wrote about, which is great. But she's someone that gets it. I don't see, I mean, out of the slate, she's the one that would sign an actual police reform bill that would strip qualified immunity from police officers, make real reform, and have real accountability. The other candidates, I'm not so sure. Danielle Allen. Actually, let me go back up. Yeah, I like Sonia. The race is early, and I don't think in the field is not yet set. So
I know it could extend to one more person, but we'll save him for last. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, but I'm really pulling for Sonia. So I'll just put it at that. I think that there is a need for. I do know that. I think in November we're going to have a woman governor.
Okay.
I don't know who. I hope it's Sonia. I really do. But I know that it's going to be one. Just from canvassing and seeing just the electoral trend. I'm doubling down on that. So anyway.
So let me ask you about Ben, because I had him on and I asked him two things. I asked him about his demographic, very respectfully, because I kind of agree with you. There is, though, I've expressed some concern about our voice. There is this movement of the woman and a lot of women of color when it comes to the electorate here in Massachusetts. So I did ask Ben, I asked him, given your demographic, why are you in the race? And he talked about his privilege. And so I haven't made any decision, but do you think he would, and where I'm asking Chip questions in real time. Do you think that when you said that Sonia would be more likely, my impression of Ben is that he talked about, he understands his white privilege. He understands his male privilege. And so I think he, would be more inclined to. And then there's this thought out there, Chip, and I just heard this the other day, that sometimes in a post George Floyd Black Lives Matter era, that when I made the statement that sometimes, skin ain't kin, that you can pull on some of that lighter than me guilt. Is that a good way to frame it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what are your thoughts about Ben? He seems very progressive, and Winelia and Rivera Consultants is with him, which I was like, okay, that for me, and if you know Winelia, that kind of says something. So what are your thoughts where you feel like comfortable sharing as far as Ben?
Yeah. So shout out to Winelia and Gina. They're doing well. That's true. My first thought when they backed him, that was like, wow, like okay. But the one thing I don't know that much about it, but I do know that his whole thing that he has put a lot of effort into transportation.
Yeah.
So that's important. That's huge. You would have a governor that doesn't see the T as a Fisher Price my first subway system sort of thing,
Yep.
So that would be crucial for someone, for Eastern Massachusetts. And, I think he's really the only one that like represents right now is from Western Mass. So there's that whole Western Mass, Eastern Mass divide, which you really have to navigate in a gubernatorial campaign. It can't just be all Boss Polly.
Say that. Yep.
Because people think, oh, well, you're from Boston, you can win. No, you can't. There's two other cities that you have to pay attention to in the state, in the Commonwealth. So he's going to get a lot of play in Western Mass. Can he pick up traction here in Boss Polly? I mean, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
No offense to us. That's why I need Gina there.
It's Friday. We're just sharing our political opinion.
But I think that he, like I said, you're right in terms of privilege. But I just remember first when I think I was in Somerville or whatever, like in Davis Square, and I was knocking on a door for Ayanna, and this white woman came up and was like, "I've been waiting for you. Like I've been waiting for Ayanna. Where have you been?" And so there is just this desire for, I want to go back to women lead.
Yep.
A desire in the electorate for women representing themselves in government.
So
and we're in the middle of that. We're in the middle of that tidal wave, and there's that glass ceiling. And I think this is what it's about. I like Ben. If this was 2016 or whatever, he'd be good enough. But I just think that this is more about breaking that glass ceiling once and for all.
Yeah, you really gave a good summation to the context of why I asked him that question, because there is, those of us that move in this space, there's a certain level of confidence. There's a certain level of pride that you have to take the step up to run for office. Mm-hmm. And somewhere I just had to ask in his head, did it say, hey, I don't know if the electorate wants to continue with, a white male, but he responded sincerely and really talked about his privilege and how he has used it and planned to use it. And so wrapping up kind of quick with the gubernatorial, Daniel Allen, I don't know a lot about her. Mm-hmm. And so I can't really speak to any policy. I believe she's a professor at Harvard. I think she has medical. I don't know what her background is.
Yeah, she is a professor at Harvard, MSNBC contributor. I mean, I'm doing it wrong right now, so I'll just leave it at that. I mean, she's got some good ideas.
Yeah.
But her campaign just hasn't really getting any traction, hasn't really hit yet. But again, it's also early.
Yeah.
Field's not set. A lot can happen.
All right, so let's talk about Field. There's two other people local. I'll start with Mora. There's a belief that Mora may run, and there's a belief that Marty may come back and run. And so, what are your thoughts? All right. Mora Healy, what are your thoughts there?
She's going to run.
She's going.
I just. Well, it depends. I mean, it would. There has to be some sort of coordination, but she's raising money right now. And she doesn't really need to raise money if she's going to run for AG. I mean, she can get reelected in her sleep. So again, glass ceiling. She's a baller. She knows what it is. Mm-hmm. So I think she's going to run, and
Okay.
I think she's, I just, I would rather that she not, because that affects Sonia's chances. I would rather, but um, I don't see what she wouldn't, unless there's some crazy backroom deal. There's some sort of like, well, we'll push you up for a Senate race in the next cycle or something. But I just there's just that you can feel the inevitability. Hi, Rachel. Thank you.
Hey, Keys. I mean, Maura is one of among pundits, the top contenders in the Democratic Party. It's funny because I had Nika on yesterday. Maybe we can talk about that. She just came straight out and said that the Massachusetts Democratic Party is racist, and I was like, "Ooh." And so we're going to get to the second Suffolk district.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Mark, go ahead.
Real quick, I just want to jump about Marty. Marty's not running. Marty, I mean, okay, so if you follow my Twitter feed, you know one thing, I have very strong opinions about Marty Walsh. Probably the strongest. Anyway, that said, Marty is not going to run, because the minute he does, he would have to, first questions would be about the controversies that he left right after he became appointed to the Secretary of Labor. So I mean, he has to have some common sense to realize, I don't want to face all that. I've got a great job. And I'm going to be the first to admit he is a better Secretary of Labor than he ever was as the mayor of Boston. He was a mediocre mayor, but he's an okay Secretary of Labor. I mean, he looks the part. So, I mean, I'm glad he's just out of our hair. And he can maybe do some things in administration, but it doesn't make sense for him to like leave in the middle of the Biden administration trying to promote the Build Back Better Act, and him just like run for governor. Just the timing is wrong.
And he has a demographic issue too.
Yes, he does.
And
yeah,
and that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, he has two things. Yep, white male, but also the Boston curse. Boston there tends to be like in the gubernatorial races, people that are like literally from Boston, like mayors of Boston, aren't seen as good gubernatorial candidates.
Give us a little bit of sexual history there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I read it, but I just remember I saw even a letter to the editor like about a few years ago. And I was just like, from Lowell, I was like, no, I would never vote for a mayor for Boston to be governor. I mean, there is just a real pushback about appointing a mayor from Boston to become governor, because the rest of the state doesn't want Boston telling them what to do.
Yeah. And that's definitely real. And it's something from when I was at the federal level and doing some Massachusetts grant monitoring that, they thought, I mean, Fed's a little bit different, but to them, it's the government. Everything's in Boston. And so thanks for sharing, your opinions about the gubernatorial, being transparent. So we talked gubernatorial. A few minutes ago, we talked about Ben. We talked about transportation. If Ben did get in, Michelle Wu, when you talked about support being in that DA and police reform. And so let's talk a little bit about the ceiling that was broke, where we have by election, have to shout out our queen, Kim Janey, who was the first Black female mayor in the city of Boston. And then we have the elected woman of Asian descent, Michelle Wu, who's I don't know if you saw, did some boosting with her the other day. And so, let's talk about that historic win. Let's talk about the mandate that comes with the amount of votes that she won by. I believe it was somewhere around 40,000 that she was up. And so what are your thoughts in reference to her win? And what are you looking forward from her coming in her administration? I've heard words like Renaissance mayor. And so what are your thoughts as far as Mayor Wu?
Just incredible. For the first time in 6 years, my blood pressure is down. I don't have to worry about what is Marty going to do? What dumb initiative he's going to do today? Sorry, I've been drinking tea. Tea's hot.
You good? It's Freestyle Friday, bro.
But to have a protege of in office is huge. She is mayor policy. She will be the first policy-driven mayor that we've had in a very long time. And policies that work for you, policies that work for us, policies that are people focused. She rides the T. She doesn't treat it as some sort of photo op that the previous mayor does. She intrinsically gets it. She knows about BPS. You don't have to break it down for her. She knows.
God knows she does.
So she knows all about the structural problems with the city, and she has good plans to fix them. She knows about BPD. You don't have to explain it to her. So, and again, also she was a student of Warren. So, like Warren said, like the senator says, she has a plan for that. And I expect the same for Mayor Wu. But I think personally, I'm looking for Wu going forward is I want to see next spring, what does she do in the budget and police accountability? So that's going to be a real fight. I don't know if we have time to talk about that real quick.
We can. Go ahead.
So real quick, and today WBUR, Shannon Dooling had a bombshell report about how they were using funds from civil forfeiture, in other words, seizing people's money and using it to buy spy. They spent about $600,000 on some sort of spy gear that would like track people's cell phones. And this is like off budget stuff, right? They're buying body armor, also basically using it as a slush fund to circumvent the budget process. So in next year, I want to see a lot of things come up in terms of police accountability and the police budget.
It's going to be budget reflects priorities.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and again, I mean, the police. Don't get me wrong. There is a need for them at certain times, but we don't need them for everything. And when you look at the budget, there are 30 officers that make over $300,000 a year. I think there's about 200 of them that make almost over $200,000 a year, and almost about of that entire group, 10% of them have serious internal affairs records. So I want her to really look at, what are we going to do to weed people out and to make BPD reflect the city and be accountable. So I know that's a lot, but that's what I see going. That's what I expect. That's what I hope going forward. I mean, she has a lot of political capital. I expect she's going to work in the schools, but I think she's really going to, you can already see she's making a big push on transportation wherever she can.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So,
I mean, that was day one, $8 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was dope the other day. I was walking down Blue Hill Ave and the bus was at the red light and I took a picture and it said free da-da-da. And I texted and I was like, what do you think about this? And she was just like smiles, so it definitely on day one doing that. One of the other things that will be an indicator of where Mayor Wu is with the police is how she's going to handle the commissioner search. Presumably there'll be a national search. I understand from being in the Menino administration that at that time there was sort of the split. If you remember, there was Dan Linsky,
right,
and Paul Joyce, and there's sort of, now BPD post, Lord Jesus, Willie Gross, and now Greg, is in and is the superintendent in chief or something like that. So the commissioner search is definitely going to be an indicator as well. And the decision around, race, gender, and their history, you know what I mean? And so I noticed what the incoming mayor elected in New York and has a Black female police commissioner. And so that would definitely, something around that demographic would definitely be awesome. And so we talked about Mayor Wu breaking the glass ceiling. Let's get a little bit into, we talked about the gubernatorial. Sonia Chang Diaz is running for the governor. That is going to leave a gap or going to leave an open seat. Well, seats are open every election, but that's going to leave a non-incumbent. And so far we got Nika Ugardo, Liz Miranda. I'll save the rumors for some other people because I don't want to put them in the same category as two women that have done some work. But so what are your thoughts around the second Suffolk Senate seat that's now the first district seat that I understand from a few people that is blacker than black, than black, than black, from institutions to people. You didn't hear that? I heard that was purposely written. The new redistricting, that district is always going to have a black senator from it. So I've heard that from Nika. I heard it from Tanisha. I think Nika referenced it yesterday, already said that. So what are your thoughts in that race between Liz and Nika right now? They probably will be the two top contenders, which we can go into another convo later, because then their seats are then left, and then where, our people that share our values going to try to sneak in. So go ahead, sir. What are you thinking?
That's an interesting race. Because from what I recall, I haven't followed it that closely, but from what I recall, not that long ago, Nika was supporting Liz. No, she wasn't. Like a couple years ago. So that's that split. I find that's inside baseball, but I find that a little odd. To put it lightly. I will say that just for disclosure, I did support Nika, but when she ran in 2018, I canvassed for her back then. So I don't think I actually have met Liz, but I like her a lot. But I would put the early advantage to Nika.
On what premise? Policy or
policy? Just policy. Yeah. Okay. Just because I would give her the edge on just being more policy focused. That's all.
Okay. Now what about Liz?
But again,
go ahead.
But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a closer race than that. I mean, Nika, don't get me wrong, she's good, but it's going to be. I think it's going to be closer than people think. So, and I would never count Liz out. So, and Liz has also been campaigning for a lot longer. So
she has some, and Liz is coming on Thursday. She also has a lot. Her name is attached to a lot of policy as well, and even Nika named that on the show yesterday, and I was like, okay, that's definitely real. But that is going to be a very interesting race. Because of the circles and stuff, and sometimes people just randomly want to share their opinion with me when you're in spaces like this, and so there's two sentiments I'm aware of that, sort of quote unquote this old guard that just, with Michelle and other things that have went on, I think it's time for the old guard to intentionally begin to pass the baton, intentionally, not even to my generation. I'm stepping back and letting the Kerry Mays and Armani Whites and younger people, let them, I'll push them, do what I do, but let them lead. And so there's the old guard sentiment of, we'll just name, there was some stuff in the media, and State Representative Miranda and I have talked about this right in here, some stuff in the media. And I think just the old guard is just, they're still to some level, when they want to still practice respectable politics and may believe that Liz has an issue, or whatever. And so not asserting on either side, either way. But there's also the younger sort of crowd that I think, by my observation, looking at pictures the other night, that gravitates, a little bit more toward Liz. And she is well known in some of the, more progressive young Black communities. And so what are your thoughts there, as far as if you were to, but what is your response to what I just asserted, basically?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of, if we're going to go about respectability politics, I mean, Nika would edge out, obviously. But the younger people are coming up, and they don't play that game. They just don't. But it's just, will they vote? I see a lot of energy, and I love the energy, and I respect the energy, but they don't always come out. When case in point, when Jan Yarmillo ran up in Revere earlier this year, there was that special seat, special election there. There was a lot of push. And M.A. Paul, I don't know if you saw it. I mean, he had endorsements from Bernie, Ayanna, and this is for the state rep seat, and yet the kids loved him online, but they didn't show up. So, so if they can match the energy that I see on the timeline with the polls, then Liz is going to win, and that's the problem right there. Because I don't know if you've noticed that there's always a lot of energy online, but it doesn't always translate in November. And
Let's
so,
let's just be fair. It's not. I mean, young people are online more, but that's not an age limitation thing because some of the old heads will be at the door. Yes, baby, love you. Go and for whatever reason, let's be fair. Don't make it out and vote. And so we definitely have to figure out a way to what that brings up other thoughts because there was all this notion around. You're gonna get me in trouble. There were some leaders within the Black community
Mhm.
that circled their energy around a candidate versus just trying to turn out the Black vote. Maybe there would be different results, no slight to anybody, our current mayor, but with
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
he desired for a Black female mayor, um, maybe if there was more concentration on just turning out the vote,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we are a huge voting block.
Yeah.
I'm not
Oh
going to
yeah.
go too far into that. And
No.
so there's the second Suffolk race. You believe that Nika has an advantage based on policy. We'll see how that
Yeah.
turns out. We don't know who else is going to go ahead. Go ahead.
And one minor thing. Y- Yeah. Yeah. Give her advantage, and she might be able to pull out a little bit in terms of the fundraising. Maybe she might be able to catch up. I haven't looked at the OCPF, but yeah,
Yeah.
I still give her a slight edge, but I would never count Liz out. So yeah.
Okay. That's actually what you call it. That's one of your peers, somebody from the Globe. So I forgot I was supposed to talk to them. And Chip, it's 9:45. Jesus, see, time flies when we got to do this. I need to have you in more often. All right, we talked about gubernatorial. We talked about the second Suffolk, police reform, gubernatorial. Rachel, I think we covered most of the major things
Mhm.
as sort of what I'll classify right now, and I'll sidebar with you later.
Mhm.
Is maybe doing this, every couple of weeks or something. I would
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
to. And tell what is his name? The brother from WGBH. There was a whole exchange with him. Is it Richard? What is his name? He does a political show there. They're starting a new show, and they were kind of messing with him on Twitter about two white men and one.
Adam Riley.
Yes, tell Adam Riley I said hello. We may be crossing paths there
Okay.
again soon. So
We'll do.
Chip, I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate your transparency and candor. That's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come in, and really would love for you to come back. And next year is going to be we said this in the pregame. Every year in Boston politics right now has been interesting. I keep saying, the next year is going to be interesting, and then maybe we'll get a lull, and then every year it's just that's why we're just Boston Poly is so we're known in the country for being very political here.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, sir? We know the holidays are coming. I move in the mental health
Yeah.
space. What are you doing for the holidays? How are you practicing self-care with all of this? Because there's some vicarious trauma that comes with moving in Boston.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, how are you taking care of yourself, and what are you doing for the holidays?
Thank you. Thank you. Also, nice to meet you finally. Great to be on.
Yes, sir.
Um, yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting year because I just texted my mom last night, asking her if she actually wanted me to come because of the variants. So I'm coming home to St. Louis, but because of the new variants, I'm not sure if that's really a great idea. So my plans are kind of in flux.
Yeah.
So there is that. But I'm healthy, and that's really the most important thing. For mental health, real quick, I was, and I guess I got a activist and residency fellowship from the Modern Elder Academy in Baja Sur, Mexico, back in November.
Okay.
So I was there for 2 weeks. It was great, but I know fancy, but basically I learned about how to do meditation. So I picked that up, meditation and a lot of restorative yoga, and it has done wonders for me, and even the last couple weeks. In fact, I meditate at least weekly, every Sunday night, and try. And also, I've been trying to get into practice of doing it every day
Yeah.
because that keeps me centered, and it clears out the brain. You shut everything down, and you just become mindful. So there is that. So that's what I'm doing for me in terms of self care. Um, so yeah, so that's just. I would just say this is going to be a trying holiday for everyone, and if you can just stay grounded and just don't let everything get to you, and just be thankful for what you have.
Chip, I appreciate that. Before you go, because there's some folks in the room today because you're here. And so if you all can spread this message that Mayor Wu and the Boston Public Health Commission have set up a numerous amount of places where you can get the vaccination and get your booster. And so take a screenshot of this. They are at multiple places like the Greater Rosendale Medical and Dental Center, High Park YMCA, Morningstar Baptist Church, Immigration Family Services Institute, Common Square Health Center, Prince Lodge, Grand Lodge, Prince Hall Grand Lodge, excuse me, and the Gallivan Community Center. Share information like that with someone. Take a screenshot and let them know that they can go get their vaccination. I've changed my language, Chip. Last year, it was, I strongly encourage you to follow the data and follow the science. And then at this point now with these variants, and I'll be very honest, I'm like you. I was supposed to be in Atlanta like right now and travel, I'm back to where I was kind of a few months ago, even with vaccinating and being vaccinated and boosted. Like, it's just very interesting. And so this is the best thing, guys, that can keep us from severe symptoms, hospitalizations, and at worst, death. And Chip, thank you for naming, because totally different away from Boston Poly and Mass Poly. But there's a lot of sentiment in social media around loss, anniversaries of loss to COVID and violence. And so thank you for bringing us into the space to be able to name that, in addition to all of the political stuff that we discussed. This is why we're in it, because we want to make sure that people's lives are improved, the quality of life of all residents are improved in an equitable manner. And so I don't know how I got there, Chip, but I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. You're absolutely right.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm going to go make some announcements and then give this person a call back. But thank you, sir. And I will follow up. It's been an honor and a privilege. And I sincerely mean that. I really like you coming in Java Cafes. No, I don't take that lightly, sir. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. It's an honor, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, all that. Thank you.
Everything. Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon.
All right. See you. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. That was Chip from WGBH, a contributor there. It was awesome to have him in the room. Listen, I need to let you all know that this event is taking place tomorrow at 3 p.m. Go ahead and register. I saw some registrations coming in this morning. Please go ahead and register, bit.ly/Java Cafe 1218. I need to get the menu up, but let me tell you what is on the menu real quick while you are here. The menu, and this is being prepared by Chef Ollie there at the Underground Cafe. And here is the menu. Eat, drink, and be merry. Java with Jimmy menu. Assorted cocktail flatbreads. Jerk chicken flatbread. Barbecue chicken flatbread. Spinach and artichoke flatbread. Beverages, we'll have Java shooters, which is sort of your caffeinated alcoholic drink. There will also be a vanilla latte with Baileys. And then there's the new Jimmy Mosa that will be debuted tomorrow. White sangria base, peach snaps, topped with Prosecco. And so that is, go and register. Every registrant will receive a complimentary drink. They will receive complimentary hors d'oeuvres prepared by Chef Ollie. This is my sort of gift to the Java fam. And we're going to have a wonderful conversation with some panelists about what's next for Black Boston. Right before that, I will have a one-on-one interview with the Cannabis Fund Manager from the Boston Equity Program. Joseph Gilmore will be interviewed tomorrow about what that office offers. And then we will have the panel with the greats here: Shauna Bryant, Kurt Fonstein, Conan Harris, and also Shagun Idawu and Tanisha Sullivan, who we mentioned a few minutes ago. Listen, that panel is going to be fire. So you need to register to be in the building. Is there on-site registration? Maybe. There's a capacity thing. COVID is going on. And so go ahead and register if you plan on attending. And we are offering you vendors at the Java Cafe 1218. Life's Paper will be there. Stationery with the Afrocentric value. Black Dollar will be there. DL is debuting their Soul Intact shirts. Author Heidi Ivy will be there. You can get your book and get it autographed as well. And also ZNT Arts will be in the building selling some wonderful Black-centric, Afrocentric art. So we need to see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Doors open at 2:50. If you registered, you're getting an email. If you do not register, you're not getting the email with the information. We're going to have a raffle. There's going to be a lot going on tomorrow. And so please be in the building. It will be wonderful to see you. And that is it for me. I do have confirmation from Darren that I believe we are going. Uh-oh. Freestyle Friday is going to be very interesting today. I just got there's something going on. Let me get off of here because I need to follow up with these texts, y'all. I'll put a post up. Plan on tuning in today at 1 o'clock. Oh boy. All right, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys later.